You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.
Hi everybody and welcome back to The Sister Trill. I'm Kiveli.
And I'm Danae.
And we're coming to you from our mutual home in Berlin. Today's episode is something a bit new for us because up to now we've kind of been trying to take you into our lives and, talk about things that happened to us that we experienced in the past. But now we want to have one episode that's just a pure kind of discussion format about a topic that I think is interesting for both of us, definitely interesting for our time, and we found ourselves talking about a lot more, especially when thinking about your kids and how that is, what role that's going to play in their life when they grow up in this day and age. And that topic is the porn industry. But before we get into that, let's first start with what we disagreed on this week.
Yeah, so one thing that we disagreed on this week, it's not really that we disagreed on it, but it's something more that I complained about.
Okay.
Which is that, so this week you had a couple of friends over, and also you were home and I was home, and I feel like I was cooking every day and also cooking for your friends and also cooking for you and very happily also cooking for you. But when you cook for yourself, it's like, don't touch my food. This is for me. I'm keeping it for the next day. And I get it because you're doing this whole fitness journey right now. And I completely respect that. But I would just love it if one day, one single day, you would say, you know what, Danae, I'm going to cook today. I'm going to cook for everyone.
Totally.
Don't worry about it.
I love that idea. And it's definitely happening. It's just that exactly what you said. Like right now, the meals that I cook are also, I don't think particularly like yummy oriented meals. They're more like
they're fitness
super
meals.
healthy meals.
No, but they're yummy. They are yummy.
Well, I mean, some of them are just chicken.
It's also more about the gesture. It's more
I understand.
about the whole,
I understand because if
I'm
you
going to make a bit.
I don't know.
And we talked about it a couple of times.
Yes,
We
but
talked
I don't know
already about it a couple of times.
If you remember that like months ago when I didn't do that whole fitness thing yet and I was just making like big pastas and stuff, I always made pasta for everyone, including your guests, for example.
I miss that now.
I get it. And
because I kept doing it and you stopped doing it.
That's true because I just started eating quite in a Spartan
but also,
way.
I mean, it makes me so happy to cook for you and like to, it's this whole older sister thing kicking in. Like, I feel like, I'm the one in the house that kind of is responsible always for doing this. I mean, so like if you do something yourself, that's fine. But if you don't, then I feel like the responsibility comes to me to put any kind of food on the table for anybody. I mean, besides my kids, guests and so on. And I love it and it makes me happy. But I think it would be so nice.
But it is something that I usually do. I mean, this was just like a total coincidence because you'd been cooking like, these pre-ordered meals. I mean, usually I do cook for, especially my guests, and I do cook for our guests as well.
I mean, I think it's always a special situation now with the fitness journey and that you're eating different stuff. I mean,
it's not that I generally don't enjoy, providing for the guests of the house.
You're supposed to provide for
Okay.
me.
No, that is. I'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
I feel like mine is like ridiculous compared to yours. Because mine is like a tiny thing. It's just that. I'm a huge like jewelry, ring, a bit more extravagant jewelry wearer / lover. And last week I like went ahead and bought like some like body jewelry, and, like multiple rings and like some arm jewelry and stuff like that. And I don't know if you would participate in the wearing of said items. So, I mean, that's just a tiny thing. But it's not really something we disagree on. It's just something we have different taste on.
Because we're going to start sharing more clothes.
Well,
because someone is getting into supermodel shape.
Okay. Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Currently, I'm getting into average shape.
You look amazing. For anyone who's not watching and who cannot see this already.
Oh, boy.
Kiveli is flaming hot.
Oh, boy. Okay. Maybe we should cut that out. We'll see. All right. So let's get into the porn industry episode.
Yes.
So obviously, I think we will both come at this topic with a very critical eye, because obviously there are very obvious things to be critical about the porn industry. But I also would love for us to find, like, to try to be as balanced as possible in our view of it. Not just push the obvious negative sides of it, which we should definitely get into because there are a lot and they're dangerous, and especially nowadays. But try to find like kind of a balanced perspective. And I thought that maybe what would help finding that balanced perspective is kind of talking about our, first connection with porn, good or bad, dysfunctional or dysfunctional. So maybe you can first start. You're older than me, so how was it for you?
I think this is already the beginning of the conversation because our first touch and connection with it is so different from the first connection with it that kids that are our age that we were back then have today. So I mean, my personal first encounter with this was when I was, I think, in 11th or 12th grade.
That would mean what age? Like 16?
That would mean like 17. 12th grade.
17.
So 17 or 18. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And I had friends over. I think we were actually doing some kind of school project, and one person had an email with photos that I don't know someone had sent him. I don't know, an older brother or something. And this was back in the days when you didn't have Wi-Fi and we didn't even have DSL connection. We only had this dial-up connection. So this was back in the day when it was like internet thing. So we were at my house and we were dialing up into the internet, and we only had like a certain number of minutes because otherwise it would be so expensive to be there for a long time. And obviously we were at the computer. We didn't have laptops. I mean, we were at the computer of my mother in her office. So it was a very kind of risky situation.
Yes.
And he was like, let's open this. Let's open up this email. Let's see these pictures. And so we did that, and we clicked on the picture, and it literally took about, I don't know, 2 minutes to load. It was like line per line that was loading, and in the end it was a picture of a half-naked woman sitting in a kind of revealing pose, and everyone was majorly excited about it. I mean, no one found this boring. Everyone was like, oh my god, what is that? What is that? So this was my first encounter. But I mean, before I start going into everything I want to say, do you want to say your first encounter?
Well, mine was definitely earlier than yours.
Yeah.
And I would say also a totally different approach to it. It wasn't like the with friends approach.
Yeah.
I think I was about 14 or 15. And I remember, I unfortunately, I can't remember like where my curiosity came from, because what I do remember that at some point I had become aware of this like concept of masturbation. I knew it existed, and I'd also become, I think probably in school, probably the like the concept of not even from talking to friends, but from like sex ed class that they were saying like touching yourself may feel good, and that is okay, and then and and things like
we were not told that in school.
No, also we were discussing like for boys the whole concept of wet dreams, that if you wake up like you shouldn't be worried if like you didn't wet the bed or things like that. And I think that must have been the way I kind of got into it, because what I specifically remember is that not everyone, but like I had heard the description of the location of the clit, but I wasn't sure whether I'd like located the right body part. so because it was all like, it's kind of higher up, it's a little this and this and that. So I remember I watched porn specifically looking for masturbation
to
clips,
see how it's done.
To see how it's
not
done.
Not to be aroused.
No,
to
see
how
I mean,
it's done.
Obviously, when I was looking at it, it was like majorly intriguing, and like my body definitely reacted to it, like in a very, up to that point, to me, foreign way. But I looked it up. I remember in the beginning, I didn't even look up porn, but I looked like techniques. I looked up like masturbation techniques for women, and then and it said all these different things, different approaches to it. And then like I went one step higher, and I don't know. I remember then I was looking. Actually, I didn't, because I wasn't even aware of this like porn site thing. I literally just Googled masturbation girls or something like that, and like a video came up. That was like my first connection to it.
Well, I mean, the thing is that nowadays this connection has changed completely, because obviously, young kids have access to tablets, iPhones, anything, smartphones, and so on. The internet is just everywhere.
Yeah.
And also the porn industry has, of course, noticed that and has shifted its market to internet porn. You know, this whole thing
magazine
of
porn, of course.
magazine. No, but I mean, this whole thing back in the day, if you really wanted to watch, you know, a real porn, I think you had to go to the adult section of a
course.
video store and, you know, show your ID or whatever. I don't know, go into that private room and view it. And, you know, it was a whole thing. And now it's just on the internet, available to anybody of any age. I mean, you just have to say I'm 18, but
Of course.
yeah.
Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. And that is super dangerous, especially, you know, I would say that the bigger danger right now is the fact that you might stumble upon it unintentionally.
Yeah.
And not you might, it's much more likely that you're going to, like, your first connection with porn is going to be unintentional nowadays than someone who's, like, actually, you know, curious about something.
And, you know, the porn industry is actually using that.
Yeah.
This unintentional stumbling upon it as a technique. So, for example, they have sites that have like little typos and of sites that you would actually type in as a young student doing a school project.
Yeah.
And then you're suddenly on a porn site. And I mean like really big sites. Like I read something about, I think it was LAtimes.com.
Yeah.
If you change one letter, it's a porn site. NewYorkTimes.com. If you change one letter, it's a porn site. And they do this, of course, on purpose. For a while, they even had Disney.com, but not with EY in the end, but with IE in the end. Oh. And that was a porn site. And then that was taken down because it was too extreme.
Right.
But, I mean, it's crazy that they're actually targeting kids.
The unintentional,
Yeah, I mean they're targeting kids.
But I mean, that is the fact that, you know, a market is going to target or is going to market it in a way that gives them the highest chance of, you know, getting money or getting views. It's, you know, that is just like a consequence of capitalism in a way. You know, it's sort of,
of course.
I mean,
but
everyone
I mean,
does it.
It's
I also think
targeted to
obviously, but I mean,
kids.
I'm also thinking of like, you know, apps where I don't know, you're like a person, like a figure running around, and then when you lose, you need like 3 gold coins to start again, and then you can buy 300 gold coins for $5, and like, you know, kids don't really understand the concept, and the credit card of the father is hooked up, and then suddenly, you know, 3,000 euros later, that's like what is going on, you know,
same
like
thing,
and so that is definitely just a huge problem of like how the digital world then, you know, kind of reaches out into the very real world. I mean, obviously, I mean, that is not a new concept.
The main issue. Sorry,
no, but I'm trying to find this like more balanced perspective, because I do think that we should definitely talk about this. You know, young people, like kind of, especially the targeting of young people is a very, very big issue. But like also maybe first let's cover the potential positive sides. Like, are there any positive sides of the porn industry that
first of all,
you feel
of course, I believe in freedom of expression on every level, and porn includes that. So obviously, I'm not against porn per se. I think that some people make their living off of it. That's also great. I mean, it's an industry, a very legitimate industry. It's an industry with a lot of money involved, and it gives many people their jobs. And also, I think one pro that I would see for our society is that you can live out fantasies that would otherwise, you know, be dangerous or hurt others or whatever. You can live them out through porn and then maybe be satisfied and not have to do something
I mean, that
crazy.
is very much a double-edged sword, because sometimes also the porn is the thing that even activates a fantasy that would otherwise just be dormant.
But at least it's something that can give you a satisfaction.
Yeah. I see a lot of also like, I can imagine it being very helpful for, you know, people exploring their sexuality, not
completely
being sure.
Disagree with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, anecdotally, obviously, I know of people that found out much more about their sexuality through finding out what aroused them through porn, while not being sure before.
The issue that I have with that is that if a young kid goes and watches porn to explore his sexuality, he learns about this whole sexual practice in the weirdest way. He thinks that porn sex is sex, and it is not.
No, but hang on. That is not exactly what it necessarily means. I understand the risk of that, but it also, I mean, it's not like, it's not just an idea I have. I know, like, of friends of mine that had that experience, that, if you grow up in an extremely homophobic surrounding, or in a situation where you can't talk about it with your friends, you can't explore it with someone, you can't meet someone and actually make first experiences in that direction. You're completely confined to, figuring it out for yourself. You can't really, you can't really try anything. And I think that it is a way of kind of finding out, and especially you also don't want to be in a surrounding like that. You probably don't want to be gay. You want to grow up and hope that it's just a phase, or hope that, you're kind of just having, wayward fantasies because you're young, and everyone young has wayward fantasies. And I think that it's a kind of closeted, safe space way to come to terms with it, at least for yourself, that no, this is not a phase, this is not something that, it's who you are. And that is a first step to then, getting into the much more important step of coming to terms that you're gay in a very homophobic surrounding, which is not an easy thing to do.
This, of course, is a situation that I would put under the category you can live out, I said only fantasy, but you can also maybe live out your sexuality in that case, and, get to see maybe what gay sex looks like. But still, porn sex is not sex. Also, gay porn sex is not real sex. And this is why I find it so difficult. If I imagine me as a, let's say, 12-year-old girl, I think, I forgot what the average age is.
12 is...
Yeah, no, but the average age is even younger nowadays. The average age, I think, is 10 or 11.
But
I didn't look it up.
But does that include kind of, like the unintentional pop-up? Or is it like really active searches going in? Because I'm pretty sure that it's not active
There
searches.
are many layers that go into it. The unintentional pop-up is maybe the first way you stumble upon it. Yeah. But as you very well said in the beginning, of course, you are majorly intrigued when you see that.
Of course.
And the unintentional stumbling is not going to stay at one thing. Also, like, our brain, while it's still growing, is wired in a way that if we see porn, it is something so enticing that it can become a real
addiction
habit.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course.
And when I'm saying average age, I'm talking about like regular viewing.
No
matter how it started. Yeah. Maybe it started with young
But I mean, the fact that it is not...
No, but what I want to say is, if I was a 12-year-old girl and I started watching porn, I mean, I would have such a twisted view of what I am supposed to do in the bedroom because of porn. And this is what I mean with...
You see, that's the thing I'm skeptical of. I mean, that's the thing I'm skeptical of, because I understand that there is the risk. There's always a risk of, if you don't communicate about it, if you don't talk about it, if you don't reflect upon it, you get skewed views on anything.
But how can you reflect upon it when you're 12?
No. But you're not going to... What I'm saying is generally like the fact that what people see on porn that they immediately believe, oh, that is what sex is like. I understand that there is the risk of that, for example, in my case, like our school told, like straight out talked about that. Like, if you do watch porn, this is not what
is great.
Sex, which is great. And I find it's a very, definitely, by the way, like little segue, but I think that education on porn is extremely important.
Yeah,
like the idea that you can shield kids from it, I think is a utopia at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
But that is a different thing. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, I don't think it is necessary that if someone watches porn before they have sex for the first time, that they're going to automatically believe that is what sex is like. Because I mean, like, I think that is sometimes it's extremely, I would say, obvious, at least it was so to me, that what is happening there has nothing to do with human connection.
Well, I mean, I think we grew up in a very liberal household with very liberal parents that were very open also about talking about these things with us. As you said, the school even talked about it and so on. But I think if you are in a situation, like you mentioned before, some very conservative setting where no one talks about anything and that's the only thing you see, then how are you supposed to know that it's not like that? This is the only thing you know. And then, of course, you're going to think, okay, this is...
No, I understand. I mean, but that is the danger, when it's also like the danger with alcohol or things like that. If alcohol is completely prohibited, then the first times you're going to be in connection with it... No, I'm not saying it should be prohibited. No. But I'm trying to say it's maybe also not just the fault of the porn industry, but it's also the fault of dogmatic forbidding of certain things or taboo topics. Yeah. Because I would say that very quickly what could happen would be like a sort of thing like, one should forbid the contact with porn. Obviously it is already on a legal level. You have to be 18 to watch it. Obviously it doesn't happen, right? But also from like a parental perspective, you could be like, never, it's not allowed, and then the kid is like, okay, if they do stumble upon it, like, I'm never going to admit to it. But I think the most important thing to do is earlier rather than later confront the topic, not watch porn with your children, for crying out loud, but talk about the fact, like, you are probably, maybe you already have encountered things
totally
like that.
On your side with that.
Videos, pictures, advertisements, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about what you saw.
No, I think that's absolutely correct, and I definitely plan on doing that with my kids. But I wanted to quickly go back to this, that where you said, everyone knows it's not real, it doesn't influence our actual sex life. And I told you about this movie that I watched that's called Linda Lovelace with Amanda Seyfried. And I don't know if everyone has watched this movie, but it's about one of the most famous porn stars of all time. Her name was Linda Lovelace, and she starred in a movie called Deep Throat. And it was back in the, what was it? I forgot. Did I say 60s? Was it? Or 80s,
I don't remember.
60s,
but it was like the first blowjob scene or something like that. Like,
something like this. I don't know. 60s, I think.
Scene.
But, and anyway, it was like one of those feature, cinema films, erotic films. One of the first, basically, erotic films, I think, to be as successful as it was. And the big twist was that there was a blowjob involved. And this was at the time so revolutionary that people were going crazy about it. The fact that she did that was like, oh my God, this girl is crazy, and wow. And nowadays, without knowing the sex habits of every person on this planet, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this has become mainstream.
The blowjob.
Yes. In porn, first of all, every porn video involves that. And also, I find that as a girl, there is a certain, I don't know if I want to say pressure, but there's a certain expectation. There's a certain expectation attached to it from guys that this is something that's supposed to happen, pretty quickly. And this is something that is not, that was not like that always. And I'm just mentioning it as an example of, the movie was there, the film was there, and now it's become so normal that, if we think back to this movie, and can you imagine someone seeing this movie and being like, oh, how revolutionary.
Right.
She's giving a blowjob. Right.
This like now falls into many different topics. One of the topics is like, because something is deemed socially common or acceptable, does that automatically follow that it can be expected from anyone? Like that communication ceases to be needed, like, which is obviously not, so just because something is normal doesn't give anyone the right to expect it,
Of course
but,
not, yeah.
Nevertheless, there are preferences, and you can communicate whether your preferences coincide with the other person's preferences. And if you don't enjoy giving blowjobs and the person enjoys getting blowjobs, then maybe these are not two people that should be in a sexual relationship, if that is a deal breaker for either of them.
No, I'm not even talking about this. I'm talking more about, not two adults with different preferences. I'm talking about this young
But there are so
stigma.
but there are so many things that are.
You're at a party, and then there's the cool boy, and the cool boy feels like he kind of is entitled to say to the girl, don't you want to give me a blowjob now? That's what's happening. And the girl's kind of like knows, well, I've seen that 200 times. Obviously, that's my job
that I would say the reason why that is weird is not because of the act blowjob, but because of the fact that two people that don't know each other in a setting that is supremely unromantic are then going to go ahead and engage in a sexual act in a more or less public way.
If you take the same public, if it's the first date, let's say. Well, I think it's something that one of these examples where the industry has influenced the act.
But
that's what I'm saying.
But this is
not
is
if it's bad or good. Just that it has influenced it.
Because I don't think, I wouldn't say that is a bad thing in that particular case. And another thing that one could say is the whole, female grooming, like the fact that we're now all shaved.
For sure, that's also
whether that is a bad or a good thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you were mentioning the blowjob, at this point now, I think it has extended to guys, engaging in oral sex as well. I think it's also kind of a given, an expected thing. Although I definitely would point out with criticism that like kind of the male performing certain acts came significantly after, and I would say with conscious feminist movement to the kind of female doing stuff. I would say that the blowjob was and is still much more accepted than male.
But I mean,
men performing
without
oral sex
talking
on
about
women.
whether it's bad or good. I mean, we can agree on the
that
fact
it is influence,
that
but
the
I would say that
industry
this is
influencing.
It's kind of
our
a
sex lives.
chicken and egg
The
thing,
shave
like
thing,
But I think it's a kind of a chicken and egg thing because what exactly does the industry influence the sex life, or does the preference of people with the zeitgeist influence the industry? Because I also read like kind of an article that was granted very pro porn. I mean, I've read both types of articles, and they said, for example, that another big thing is that anal sex has become so much more common, which coincides also with anal sex being much more common in the porn industry. But it's difficult to say what came first because if you look at surveys about how many people had anal sex, say in the 80s compared to now, it's more now than then, and it's the same with porn. It's more now than then, but like the amount of percent in the population engaging in anal sex is quite proportionate to the amount of anal videos, percent of anal videos in the porn industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think
the preferences.
The practice always was there before the porn video. That's clear anyway. I mean, definitely the first blowjob was given before that movie.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But the point is what it does with the with the mind of an innocent
Right.
of a person who has not even thought about these things, what it instills in you, a certain expectation or a certain pressure or whatever, a certain just direction that you're supposed to go towards, rather than what I would, say is the ideal way. Explore everything by yourself. Explore everything alone. Don't
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree that there is a purity, and I find that a very attractive model as well.
Yeah.
However, I would say that's not that much, I mean, I don't know, like, I understand what you mean, but there is a part of me that is also just thinking to herself, like, it sounds very similar to kind of forbidding something.
No,
or also, and not just say, but it also sounds very similar to like, sheltering sex as a bad thing, especially also extreme
No.
sex as a bad thing.
Not at all.
And but it sounds very similar
what
to
I
that,
think, What I think would be a step that I would, find good for society, especially for those kids, is to make porn not free.
Okay.
This is what I think would, of course, it would be a stupid step because, they would lose so many customers. So this is never, ever going to happen. But I believe that this is what would really be a good step, because all the adults that want to see it can pay their $5 or whatever, $10 to watch a movie. But the 12-year-old kid is not easily going to take a credit card to pay for a porn movie. And I think that would be a thing, make it a pay-per-view thing. And not a free thing that you can even stumble upon and that is just everywhere and that kids can send to each other.
I think we obviously agree, and it would be very hard to find someone to disagree with the fact that it cannot be as available as it is, that it needs to be regulated.
Exactly, that's what I say.
Significantly
It should be there.
More.
It should be there.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. But I also, I really wouldn't discount the role of porn in young people's exploration, not just of their sexuality, but also of their preferences, also of, the general, their general sexual identity, things like that. I really wouldn't discount that at all, because I do think that people nowadays are much more informed about sex than ever before, which also, has positive consequences like, more safe sex, more also just general, like sexual practices you are aware of. Anal sex, I'm just going to try what it is, and then you're suddenly like scandalized by it. Like we're much more informed about many things, including also for safe sex practices, which is not necessarily correlated to porn. But I think the general awareness around sex as with positive consequences goes along with, the more liberated attitude towards porn.
Well, I mean, I
think that we shouldn't go back to this super closeted women not, learning it from their mothers on the wedding night.
No, first of all, I don't want to differentiate between men and women at all. I'm
Yeah, but- or
talking
people,
about
for that
like
matter.
also very much about young boys. I'm not just talking about young girls
Yeah.
here. I find it just as tragic for young boys. But I want to say two things about that. The first thing with this whole exploration, I mean, obviously, I also went through, a porn phase, but I think that it made a difference that I was a bit older, that I was not a
Yes.
teenager, that I
Yes.
was 18, 19 when this...
I mean, I was young. I was a bit young. I wasn't 12.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
15, 14, 15.
But there already access to like all the stuff with 14, 15?
I mean,
No.
I remember I was... What do you mean access to all
Like
the
to
stuff?
the actual porn sites? Did you even
When I
know
was-
about
No,
the
I mean,
names?
I don't know. I started with I started with this, Google video
Yeah.
search. But I mean, by the time I was 16,
Okay.
I had figured
Okay.
out, the sites
For
and
me,
stuff.
for me it was
Yeah.
it was like more like 18, 19. Yeah, I think more 19 when I finished school actually. And of course I went and I can kind of see what you're saying. This whole, it can help the exploration. But I think it's also different when you're a bit older. When you're younger, it's...
For sure. I mean,
It makes a
I
big
mean,
difference.
I would say that you should. I mean, you shouldn't watch any type of extreme sexual activity before you, for example, had your first kiss, before you've ever, felt on a natural basis a connection to another person that, similar to something called a sexual connection.
Yeah.
Like
But
for sure.
The second thing I wanted to say about that is that I think we've also talked about this already before recording this episode, but many young boys right now are suffering from erectile dysfunction.
Totally. I know where you're going.
And-
Yeah. I mean, I agree with I'm 100% with what you're going to say.
And
Yeah.
this is because they have become so extremely desensitized
Yeah.
to anything.
Yeah.
Because everything is so readily available and
Mm-hmm.
because they're exploring with porn, they cannot function in a natural way when they're 18 years old. They cannot function with a man or girl next to them, whatever the preference. They cannot function. And they're going to the doctors, and doctors are prescribing medicine for young boys, where usually this is the age when we are speaking
Yeah.
on a natural level where, you cannot contain yourself, where things just
no, I
happen.
mean, obviously,
in a
the
crazy way.
fact that, I mean, that is tragic and
this
absolutely...
to me shows how it is, not necessarily helping the exploration because you are exposed to too much too early. This is basically what I'm saying.
Yes, but I mean, what I'm talking about is obviously like a kind of functional exploration. What you're talking about is dysfunctional exploration.
But it is not someone, going crazy, watching all day. It's just someone
No,
who
but
has
it
been
is-
watching regularly.
Yeah. But I
for
mean,
the
at
last
the point,
6
but I
years.
mean, it's clear, and I mean, that is also type of conversations that I'm sure we've both had with friends or maybe even together, where someone says, you start out with something very, I would say,
Harmless.
normal and
Yeah,
harmless, and then this doesn't get you off anymore, so you go more and more, and then at the end, you're watching things that you could have never even conceived of in the beginning,
Yeah.
and that's the only thing that you kind of, that, because obviously, I mean, I think our mind is built in a way that we constantly seek new stimuli, so obviously that is a bad thing.
Yeah.
But again, what I see as a kind of problem is lack of awareness, education, communication. And that is the thing that makes it
But
dysfunctional.
lack of awareness? What awareness?
I would say that in the cases that you're talking about, boys having erectile dysfunction because they're constantly seeking the more extreme, I doubt that they've ever had an open conversation with their parents about porn, for example, or with their, what I mean?
But
like,
that's not going to change. I mean,
Why wouldn't that
Do you
change?
think that every parent in the world is going to start talking about porn?
Well,
with their
but I
kids?
do think that our generation, which I mean, or if you just compare our generation to our parents grew up where porn was magazines,
Yeah.
porn was posters and things
Yeah.
like that, right? Although we didn't grow up with the internet to the point where like we stumbled upon it when we were 8.
Like we didn't have smartphones.
Exactly, we
in
didn't have
school, for example.
smartphones.
Yeah.
We didn't have Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
readily available since we were born.
Yeah.
But we did grow up with the concept of porn sites, with the concept of ads, with the concept of having available free porn en masse.
I mean, this concept came to me when I was 18, the concept of porn sites. But yeah, no, keep on talking. Like I didn't
but
grow
I mean,
up
you
with
did,
it.
but you did engage with that concept.
Yeah,
You already grew up being aware of this type of consuming porn with the sites and everything. So I would say that because we grew up kind of a part of it, we're going to have a different attitude. And I would say we're also disillusioned into how far it's even possible to, create an environment where you shield kids from porn completely. I mean, I think that we are aware that this option just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
whether we like it or not.
The generation
Therefore,
that is growing up now is the first generation that's really suffering
and
from
I would
the
say they are
consequences.
most at risk.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say like the generation of the people about 10 to 15 years younger than us that still have parents that, did not grow up with the internet-based porn, but grew up with the more magazine. Those, and I think that those are also the ones with,
those are the ones
the
going
great
to the
consequences
doctors.
that we're seeing right now. But I think that I cannot imagine someone who grew up the way we did to not consciously make the step to communicate about that.
I'm talking about the generation that is 10 to 15 years younger than us, and also, for example, the generation of my kids. I mean, this is...
But the generation of your kids will have you as a parent.
Will have me as a parent,
therefore, there's already a difference.
I hope so, but this is definitely one of the things that is in my mind a lot, something that really, really worries me, how this could influence them and mess them up. And I will have those open conversations, but still, the pure, fact of something this enticing being readily available, no matter how many open conversations your parents have with you, can still lead to all of this.
I think
yes, they might know it's not the normal practice, okay, but the desensitization can still happen.
So you already presented a possible solution with make it all
monetize it. I mean, this is somehow,
to
me, makes sense because it takes the young people away, or I mean, maybe not completely away, but it makes it harder to access. Because you're not going to start paying all the time.
I mean, I definitely think it's an interesting idea. It's basically also kind of, you had to buy the magazine in the past as well, to get the poster or get the video. And I mean, what I do think, I was many times when you watch these or read like, the books of, I don't know, Victorian times or watch movies like that, and you see like these typical scenes between two people that obviously, have never engaged in something, and it's like all, kind of exploratory and innocent and everything. And obviously it's fiction. It's described by it's described by an author, but I mean, some of them are described so beautifully. Some literature can describe things like that so beautifully. And it is a shame that, that this chance of such a pure first approach ceases to exist.
Yeah.
Like, it is. But on the other hand, unfortunately, I would say, and that's why I'm thinking to myself, like, thank God there is so much information available also in a way of porn, is that most of the time it wouldn't be that, two people are mutually innocent and inexperienced and kind of lovingly explore this topic with each other. But mostly it's, of course, that the men do know about it, also because it's simpler for men. The women don't know about it. And then that kind of unequal knowledge is very easily abused by the man, even like without him wanting it.
But I just want to say, because you said information in form of porn is not information. Porn is fiction.
Porn is exposure to something.
Yeah, but it's not information. It's not where you should go to learn about. It's an acted out, it's supposed to be entertaining story by actors. They are not enjoying what they are doing. This is also, I think, so important to keep in mind. They are acting. The woman that is orgasming like crazy is acting.
But I mean the same way. I mean, and by the way, of course, another thing one has to talk about is, there is so much different porn.
For sure,
There's also, like real couples filming themselves and making money off of it that is, arguably they are enjoying themselves, and there is like very real porn, there is, very extreme porn, there is, all different types of categories and everything. So, porn does not equal porn, No, but what I'm talking about is the same way that, if you read a good book, yes, this is fiction, it's not happening, but you can get information about your psychology, your psyche, the human experience.
Yeah,
if
you
you
can
watch
get information about
the
how
sexual
you react
experience.
to it.
No, but I mean, the same way as I, for example, as a 14-year-old girl, find out where the clit is located through watching porn.
But you could have found out where the clit is located through just reading a biology book.
No, but I mean,
also.
quite quickly, I did read the biology book, and because, things were taking longer than I had expected or read in the biology book, I was kind of unsure whether I'd understood something wrong.
I mean, yeah.
And watching a video tutorial, I mean, it wasn't a tutorial, but, is more clear than reading a book. You know what I mean? Like,
No, I understand, but I really want to stress that this is not these are not educational videos, because you put it in a way like, yeah, they can educate us. No, porn doesn't educate us. Porn plays a story.
Mostly not.
And what you said with there's porn and porn, of course there's porn and porn, but also the, supposed reality porn amateur actor videos are usually acted out, and usually no woman is enjoying herself there, and everything is acted out. The orgasms are acted out, because I also told you about this already off camera, but I watched this documentary on Netflix about this segment of porn, the amateur porn industry.
No, but that is not what I'm talking about.
No, I know you're talking about real couples filling this out.
That is a totally different thing.
But they are also producing videos like that and putting it in that category. This is why I'm saying it's just like reality TV is fake. Reality porn is also very often fake.
But influencers, if they, it is their room that you're seeing, it's
but they're also
room.
acting out. They can also act out.
Of course, but...
Yeah, but this is the point that I'm making. It can be a room, but the act is still acted out in order to generate the most clicks and in order to generate, the highest number of viewers.
I think that I've watched porn where it was of couples that are just, it is exactly I'm sure that you have as well.
Actually, I don't know. I've never watched this specific thing that you're saying right now, but yes, I'm sure it does exist. But I want to say 99% of the time,
exactly. But there is
a
difference,
out, even in the reality category.
Yeah, but when we talk about a big, huge topic like porn with so many different aspects to it, and that has such a huge spectrum of experiences you can have within it, both as a watcher, as a creator or whatever. I think it's the fact that most of it is extremely risky, dangerous, has bad consequences. Is obvious, But there's a difference between saying the whole thing is bad and then certain ways of engaging with it is bad.
No, I'm not saying the whole thing is bad. I just wanted to say it's not educational and it's acted out and it's fake.
I really think that it can be.
Maybe that 1%, okay, but I think we can agree on the fact that the very high percentage is fake.
But it can be educational. Educational. It's not like educational in a way of like so then this and this and this happens. But I do think that many people that don't dare ask questions, or maybe even don't have access to school good sex ed classes or something, and maybe that's also the danger, because yes, most of porn videos are not a healthy depiction of anything. Obviously. But a boy that is super unsure and super nervous before his first time and wants to find out, what goes where and in what angle and what seems to be more enjoyable. If, obviously he doesn't stumble upon one of those bad videos that is just like, showing bad stereotypes that are very unenjoyable to women. But one has to say that there are more and more women-friendly videos, and there's a huge industry growing which is geared exactly at this more realistic not even women-friendly, but people-friendly sex. When there's also a thing, right? But is going to feel more secure going into it. People, especially nowadays, because the information is all out, do not want to embarrass themselves.
But here's the scenario: he's going to watch, because as you said, this whole industry is growing, because obviously there must have been a lack thereof before, because it is so fake what is being depicted. So he's going to watch this video. I'm just going to go ahead and say he's going to watch a classic video of taka taka taka, and he's going to feel very secure and be like, okay,
that's why I preface it with saying he doesn't stumble upon a video getting the wrong sexual practices.
That this is, you pretend like this is the big exception.
What I'm talking,
No, but I'm just going to say, I'm just trying
to, because obviously that I agree with all of the things you're saying.
But let's play out the scenario. He's going on into the room. He's super confident because he now knows how it works, because he learned from it. He educated himself watching it.
That's not what I mean.
He goes there. The girl is waiting there, ready in her position, and he goes there, does his taka taka taka. The girl knows, okay, this feels really bad, but I'm supposed to have an explosive orgasm right now. Does it, and they're both like, wow, okay.
Yeah, but I
don't think this is such an unrealistic scenario that I just described.
It's not, but I would say take away the porn. And what you're describing right now is just two people too scared to communicate what they actually want. And the added thing. But that's why I'm saying, like, that I agree with all the criticism you're saying. I'm not saying these things just to, be like, I disagree with the dangers of it. I'm just trying to, be balanced about it. Because if the kind of result of this would be like, okay, porn is so much more bad than it is good, then the consequence should be, let's, try to not have it anymore. But obviously, like, and not just, okay, fine, it's business. You can say, but, it being a business is not a good enough reason to keep it around.
No,
that's why I'm trying to get to the fact of what
is always with young people. This is with everything that I'm saying, my issue is that people that are not ready for it see it. So I think porn should exist just in the way it does, but it should be not so easily accessible for people, let's say, under the age of 18. Just very simply that. Let's say.
I mean, under the age of 18, I think I would say it's a bit old. I would say under the age of like 16.
Because of coincidence, this is what happened to me.
Right.
I was over 18. I thought it was very healthy. And I can tell you, I didn't miss any educational stuff because I didn't watch any porn. I was talking with my girlfriends in school. Everyone was trying their stuff.
Yeah, but
we were telling each other what works. I mean, this is how it goes. I didn't miss any knowledge.
That's of course the biggest risk is, of course, if you grow up in a kind of vacuum, if you access like good inspiration, it's beneficial. Because then you kind of have a platform to, I'm going to go ahead and say, learn something or engage with something. But of course, if you encounter bad material, then obviously you're going to have a totally skewed wrong idea.
And the chance is pretty high.
Absolutely. So what I would say is, I think the idea of monetizing it is an interesting one, and I totally get where you're coming from. But I would also say, generally introduce it into education, the topic of porn, as I already was educated on it, but even much more extreme now where it's so much more prevalent.
Yeah.
And also in a way, but of course that's a hard one, but nudge the porn industry in a way where real sex is more attractive than unreal sex. But I do think, I don't watch porn anymore, on a regular basis as I did when I was younger, and it was like, more like the whole thing. But I have realize, and it's become very clear that there is a huge kind of, I would say shift in also more, like realistic, real, titled real porn, for example, also I think the actresses don't anymore have like these fake bodies, huge fake breasts. Like it's become much more, I would say, mainstream for yes, obviously still mostly slim, but normal breasts, non-fake
natural
body, natural, the same way that, unlike I think in the past where the men, the way they look was kind of irrelevant, now it's also become much more important for the men to be like kind of hot and worked out and things like that.
No, that's a good development. But no, and I just want to say that I, who am now obviously have quite a critical view on this, I wasn't like this always. When I started watching porn when I was 18, 19, I thought it was amazing. And I loved it. And I think this changed way of thinking started maybe 2-3 years ago for me.
When you had kids.
And it basically started, in connection with the kids and also in connection with somebody else who's very close to us, who's younger, and, listening to his experiences. And this is what got me thinking. So, I am totally on your side when you say, there are also good things, like the general thing, what I would say start above 18 or whatever, of the porn industry being there, I think is totally valid. And I would actually say I was always a very liberal person. I even, would openly talk about it, at the dinner table, whatever, about different tastes, all that stuff. But now
you've become more conservative.
With that, I don't know if you want to call it more conservative, but I've become definitely more aware of what it can do to young people, because I was not one of those young people. So I thought, my journey was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
But this is not the journey anymore. And this is what really worries me, of course, connected to my kids.
And that there is no need for a discussion, because I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with the huge threat. It's just, I found myself thinking right now is, what is it about, watching, because I mean, we watch in movies. There is everything, right? I mean, there is you watch extreme situations of everything. There's, for example, this American thing where if there is like a scene where someone's hand is cut off, rated 6. If there is a scene with 2 girls kissing, it's suddenly rated R or something like that. And I mean, what is it about that act, the act of sex, that somehow makes us feel it's so much more dangerous to watch than all the other definitely, extreme, uncommon human experiences, like also watching a movie about slavery or watching a movie.
It's nothing about the act of sex. It's the act of fake depicted sex that we see, unrealistic, putting the women in very strange
but
roles.
I mean, like, the act of anything extreme is unrealistic and unreal in a way, like, an extreme torture scene or extreme is also not something that
you mean now as part of a movie, or?
Yeah, because to me I always found that is worse, because that is like, it's not like sex is something that everyone is going to experience.
But I mean, sex in a movie is not hardcore porn.
No, but I'm just talking, I find it I sometimes find myself thinking, because I feel it as well. I also feel that there is something about watching 2 people have sex that kind of feels like a bigger trespass than watching something else. Even within a movie, like a very explicit sex scene.
But I think
you feel like, when you watch a movie with your parents, or when you watch a movie with friends, and a big sex, and you're like, kind of like, everyone's a bit like,
but
when you watch a big war scene, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, but there's a big difference, because in the movie, yes, the sex scene is a bit uncomfortable, but it's all acted out. But the porn suggests, as you say, that you're trespassing and spying onto people actually having real sex. And if there was a video genre where you trespass into something that suggests that someone is actually in real life right now being, which I'm sure probably does exist, kidnapped and being tortured and a hand is cut off, that's also horrific. But it's the difference between fiction and porn suggests that you are watching something real, which feels like you're trespassing, even though it isn't. You know what I mean?
I understand.
It's not the artistic aspect has gone away. I think that plays a big role. But what you said, I find important in the sense that our whole world has become more pornographic. You're at the bus stop and you're basically watching a porn. Underwear
Instagram
model
and everything.
Instagram, exactly. So this goes further into the desensitization, because porn has to be extremely hardcore in order to stand out from the normal things that we see.
Of course. No, I mean, I totally agree. I agree. Actually, I mean, this discussion is mostly
agreeing,
but I'm trying to just find, because there is one thing that I'm going to try to formulate as well as I can, because it kind of reminds me a bit of, it's the difference between putting the responsibility on the viewer, kind of, versus or the user of the porn, versus putting the responsibility on the industry that creates it. And now, of course, that argument can only be made once we're talking about an age group, an
adult,
aware, able to take responsibility for things, which is obviously not a 12-year-old person, right? But I mean, I feel like you are also, I mean, you're not just, I mean, are you just criticizing it for the usage of, for the availability of porn for very young people, or would you think that when you're 18 years old, you can watch anything and it doesn't matter? I mean, I would say that also there are some
I think
real potential harm that can be made, right?
I think
it's
that
not just
harm can be made, just like with, hard alcohol. Harm can be made.
Right.
But also, like, when you're 18, this is the age in our society that's considered okay for you to start drinking whiskey and vodka, and it is your choice.
I generally
think
that, I generally think that, instead of like, I mean, I keep coming back to the thing, like, it's almost, for me, it's almost comparable to like the drug industry,
Yeah.
Where, again, do you put the do you make everything illegal? Or do you put the responsibility on, every respective person educating?
Yeah, but maybe the easiest way is to compare it to a legal drug, to alcohol. Because it's legal, porn is legal. So it's the same thing. And this is why I said before,
and I would say making alcohol illegal or making it kind of
but
less
no one's
available
saying about illegal. But alcohol is not available. Hard alcohol is not available if you're under the age of 18. That's what I mean.
The whole point, what we're talking about
because
right now, porn is not...
If it was, the danger would be there.
Right.
To
I mean, obviously the fact that people you know, you said 18, 16, whatever, 15, I mean, not 15, but I mean, like, you know, the age
I
where...
think 18, the adult age where so much changes in your life generally, is a good age.
Yeah, but for example, in Germany, you can start drinking when you're 16.
Yeah, but
for
only
example.
wine and beer.
Well, you could say when you're
Like,
16,
I would say
you can
hardcore
watch...
porn is vodka.
For
Hardcore
sure.
porn
So, I mean,
is whiskey.
We can try, you know,
It's the
creating a law
ouzo
where, like, you know, when
of
you're
the
16,
alcohol.
you can watch, like, you know,
Yeah, you can
missionary
watch
and doggy
Kissing
style,
Scene.
and then from 18 onwards, everything else.
You can watch softcore and 18 hardcore. We're reforming the porn system right
No,
now.
and I mean, and I think that those are actually, I mean, maybe not specifically this one, but I mean, are interesting ideas, you know, to like kind of regulation rather than forbidding. But I think that if you kind of get into the mindset of just panic around it and like, oh my God, let's, you know, it's so, then, you know, you create an anxiety around something that, in my opinion, can be handled with communication, awareness, and education. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
and
I'm not the
obviously, I mean,
person
if there was a button where you can, you know, stop the porn industry targeting innocent children from stumbling upon it through these, you know, site names that you just typo sites or pop-up advertising. Or, I mean, obviously that is a button worth pressing for sure. You know,
or at least, I mean, even if it's not monetized, at least require, you know, for you to upload your legal ID to prove that you're 18. But of course, no one is stupid enough to do that because, I mean,
most people, Because I mean, what I would actually say, what I do see is, I mean, we've spoken about the one big danger area with it, which is, you know, targeting people that shouldn't be watching porn. But I think that even within adult people, there are real risks to watching porn. You know, watching too much porn, becoming, again, like this erectile dysfunction syndrome.
Yes,
you can also just...
but this really doesn't worry me that much because I feel like when you're an adult, you have already had your first experiences in the real way, in real life. You can respond naturally to things. You can separate it much better. This is why I would just push it backwards until you are intelligent and wise enough
I think that is a super reasonable,
you know, to
requirement.
Handle it.
I think it's super, but I think it would also be, I would say, naive to think that an adult is not at risk of having a dysfunctional relationship.
That's why I would compare it with alcohol. Any adult is also at risk.
Yeah, and again, I mean, which brings me back to actually the thing that I would say is the same for all age groups. You know, is education.
Yeah,
you know, is just educating both.
For sure.
Kids that advertisements and these type of things exist, and then also educating us. And I would say that where we went to school, I was educated on. I mean, I think, I don't know if it was like, I didn't feel that it was particularly progressive or like it was something super special. Maybe it was if I compare it, like, okay, to other countries, but within Germany, I find it quite normal because I mean, I was educated on so many aspects pertaining to sexual encounters, and with it, the porn industry. And what I found was very appropriate ages, you know?
No, I think it's amazing. This didn't happen in my class, but also in my class, it wasn't, as I said, when I was 14, 15 in sex ed, I mean, it wasn't a thing. Like, nobody knew about porn videos. I specifically remember
the class where it was, you know, we were talking about the fact that it's so unrealistic and not real.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think it's great.
And
for us, it wasn't even up for discussion, you know?
Interesting. Interesting that those 4 years made such a difference. Because, I mean, to me, I for example, I never watched porn confusing it with reality.
No, that's great. That's great.
You know,
and that's very reassuring for me to know that you started at a young age, but with that younger age. But with that knowledge and, you know, differentiation, still didn't, you know, have any bad damage from it or anything. So, I want to say one last thought, maybe that's also like from a different light.
Okay.
Because I think we've talked about this whole, you know, it's dangerous for young people, okay? But from the perspective of the people that are in the industry.
Yeah.
Because obviously I have zero experience in that myself, but I have, like, you know, watched some interviews, and there's this one YouTuber that I follow that is a former porn actress, and I do think that there are these, you know, empowered women that actually decided that this is going to be my thing. I'm going to make a lot of money because you make a lot of money because it's such a successful business.
1 in a million, but as always.
No. Anyone who enters makes quick, big money. because
But like, you know, in a very like one day fame type of way. I would
yes,
say.
yes, yeah, it's no, it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure
way
there are
more
some
than-
sustainable, successful porn stars, but that's
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
you know,
No, but I
a
mean
pianist
now,
career.
if
Some
you-
people make it.
Yeah, yeah.
Most
No,
don't.
but I meant now, you know, if you for 1 year you work as
Okay.
a waitress
Yeah.
or as a porn actress, you're going to make, you know, 10, 20 times the amount
Right.
as a porn actress, or even more, depending on what you're doing. And
Yeah.
so I do think there are these empowered women, and I don't want to criticize them one bit. You know, I think it's amazing, and if that's what you choose to do, and if you're actually happy and you like it, and I mean, not necessarily you like it, but if you're happy with what you're doing, then you should be proud of that, and that's totally fine. But
Are you happy with what you're doing?
but I mean, I think that most of the women are not,
of
because
course, and they get trapped in that.
yeah, trapped in that. And also, you know, I watched this documentary that I mentioned before, and these girls are completely troubled, and it's like an absolute last resort for them to do that. They come from troubled backgrounds, troubled families, usually have some substance abuse problem, and are funding it with this and whatever.
Right.
And this is also for me, you know, the whole other perspective, which I know too little about to even be able to talk
Yeah.
about it, but I just wanted to mention it, you know, that the industry also exploits the actresses so
Obviously.
much, you know, to a level that it's almost, I think, inhuman at some point. And I think that we should also be aware, you know, when we watch that, this could actually right now be a very difficult life situation for the person that we're watching on screen. And of course, we're never going to know exactly, and we're not going to see it on screen.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I don't know enough about it either, but I think
I just want to say
again,
every
it depends.
click supports that.
Of course. But I mean, I think, I mean, as I don't know enough about it to really, you know,
Me
like
neither.
make
Me neither.
make an
Yeah.
informed statement of it. But I think that I remember that, you know, the porn that I especially, you know, used to watch was with like, you know, porn stars that you could then, you know, that had like what's it called? Not obviously not Grammys or Oscars,
Like
but
prizes.
like prizes,
Yeah.
and you know, were like, you know, acclaimed porn
Right,
stars,
yeah.
or especially nowadays. I mean, these porn stars then decide to like go into business for themselves and kind of create the brand
Yeah.
around themselves. I mean, obviously there are people that view that as a career path.
Yeah.
You know,
No, this is what I meant
And-
with the empowered women, you know, or
you know,
men.
right?
or-
Yeah. So that's why. But again, it depends on what you watch, and you know,
Totally.
and all these type of things. And but I mean, obviously, the fact that it has a huge, I don't know, like underbelly of
Yeah.
depravity, that the porn industry, you know, is, I would say, like the tip of the iceberg. Might be like something fine, and then everything that's underwater is just tragic, is of course clear.
Yeah.
But I would say that it is because it's like so hard to regulate, and because it speaks to something so enticing
Yeah.
to human beings, and therefore, what again? I mean, what
Like
I come back
anything
to
connected to sex work, probably, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Same
mean, exactly.
thing,
Exactly. So I mean, again, what I come back to is I'm like, you know, never a fan of boundaries and forbidding, and more a fan of awareness and education in everything. And I would put that also into this big topic of
Yeah.
porn, especially because, you know, let's face it, there is not much that anyone can probably do to actually effectively combat that at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, like
So for all the porn industry executives watching out there, find your human side and start monetizing that porn so that people under 18 don't watch it. You're going to make significantly less money. but
you
do
will
it.
be a better person.
But you
because
will
of
be a
it.
better person, and we
You
will
get better
respect you.
karma. Yeah. No, I mean it's an interesting topic. Especially it's interesting because I think you cannot avoid it at this point from the perspective of being a parent.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's good to have these conversations, and it's an important thing. And by the way, one maybe other very important thing, which is that I just remembered because I was thinking like, you know, what type of conversation would I have with my children, is that, you know, I would say that one very important danger that exists in kind of vilifying porn is it very quickly segueing into creating shame around sex and sexual preference. Obviously, it needn't have to be that, but it's very easy for it to kind of fall into that category, and like suddenly maybe shaming someone for maybe having a more, being open, or having a more, I would say, maybe a rare sexual preference. So I would say it's also important to communicate to people, like, no matter what you're turned on by, that is totally fine. The important key ingredient is consent. You know, having that with experiencing that experience with someone who's consenting.
Yeah,
to it.
totally agree.
But I think it's also very dangerous to kind of revert back to an atmosphere around porn that creates shame around sex.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So.
Nice.
That kind of, I would say, concludes this discussion.
Yes.
I think there are many more ways you can approach that, also with much more background knowledge and statistics and stuff.
Yeah, this was just our emotional approach to it.
Yes. So we'll see you again next week with the next episode, which is going to be all about our idols, like the people that we draw inspiration from, that we are kind of impressed by, and that I would say influence our worldview.
Exactly. So see you next Saturday.
Lots of love. Bye.
You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.